If we're going to be serious about raising up the next generation, then we have to do it from every seat. Here, it's from those in a unique seat.
What's up, Intern Academy fam? Man, I'm so excited for this conversation that we're about to have. Not just because I love these people, but the conversation topic that we're going to be diving into. It's just about leading internships, but from a unique seat. And so you're going to hear some folks who are doing great things in pastoral ministry, but maybe they don't have the traditional like lead pastor or youth pastor seat, and how that might be different for them. You can still lead interns at a super high level. Sometimes you can even have more kingdom impact in a unique seat, but there are some challenges that come with it, just like there are some advantages. And so we're going to dive in. I'm going to let my friends kind of introduce themselves, say a little bit about them, where they're from, what their intern program's like at their church. And we're going to start with my friend Tom.
Hey, what's going on, Chip? My name is Tom Moody, and I serve as the pastor of local and global missions. So basically, our outreach and missions pastor at Salem Church of God in Clayton. It's probably a little bit of a larger church, and our intern program is pretty awesome, actually. I think we have a total of 4, maybe 5 now coaches on staff. We have capacity through the way that we budget and organize things to take on up to 6 interns every year. I think this past year we did 9 total internships. Some of those are junior interns where we have high schoolers who are just volunteering throughout the summer, as well as a residency program. So we can do 1-year or 2-year residencies. And that's something where our church thinks that it's very missional. We want to be a sending center for people to explore that call into ministry. In my context, the way I work with interns, I try to tailor that to their desired experience. What is it about missions and outreach they want to experience? Then we put together a plan for them to experience exactly that, whether it be the international side of things or working with some of our local partners, nonprofits, things like that.
Hey, it's Paula Spear here. How are you all? Hey, I serve at Catalyst Church here in Pendleton, Indiana. I serve as the executive pastor, and I'm new to this role. So that's what's really cool is that stepped into this after 21 years of ministry and children's ministry. And so this summer, after just being here for a few months, we took on 3 internships, and we're excited to have a full year residency next year that's going to be coming on board. So we're super excited about that. My call to ministry did not happen until much later in life. So I love investing in the next generation. I was 39 years old whenever the Lord called me to ministry. And so I'm just thrilled to be a part of this and super excited just to lead the next generation.
My name is Tammy Bird, and I am the Family Ministries pastor at Inspire Church in Westfield, Indiana, so Central Indiana. And I got started in internships just because I had college students who needed to do an internship. And so I got my own schedule and agenda and reading plan, and I put it together myself. And then a few years later was when I was on a team called the Youth Network Team in the Church of God, and I was working with Chip Taylor on a team that was trying to figure out what if we could do internships in the Church of God. What could that look like if we had kind of a universal internship? And so I got to be in it from the ground up and was one of the original IA coaches. And so the church where I'm serving now, there are 2 of us who are coaches, the lead pastor and myself. We're a middle-sized church, 150 or so. And so, but being a smaller church, an internship at Inspire means you're going to get to do a little bit of everything. It might include, usually it includes speaking on a Sunday morning at the end of the internship. It might include serving some in student ministry, some in children's ministry, working with different leadership teams in the church. So it's I feel like it's a unique thing just because you get your fingers in so many things. At a small church, the pastors wear a lot of hats. And so that's the kind of internship that we offer. We do primarily summer internships right now, and it's a good place to be.
Hi, I'm Keith Mitchell from New Beginnings Church of God in Meadville, Pennsylvania. And my role of being a coach came about 3 years ago when I stepped back into, or was called back into actually, full-time ministry in church setting, and I am our care pastor and our missions pastor. So I do a lot of pastoral care, hospital visits. I've performed a lot of funerals, and it's very busy, and it's a big difference and change for me because I've worked with youth or children for about 34 years. And so it's been a big change. Our internship program, we do a lot of summer interns. Our church has been very big in internships for about 20 years. And so they've done mostly summer internships, but now we have year-round residency programs. We also do the summer internships, but we also have a high school internship program that we've been starting and trying to just build the pipeline and see how we can impact and grow leaders.
Hey, my name's Jeremy Gallanter, and I'm from Vancouver Church in Vancouver, Washington. My role here is that I'm on the executive team, and I've been commissioned with developing our leadership development within our entire staff, as well as building out our leadership pipeline, and then oversight over various ministries. We've been doing our internship program for the last 6 years, and it started off just with our desire to develop leaders. And for the first few years, it was the wild, wild west of a lot of trial and error. And then we've partnered with Intern Academy over the last few years to where we've really built the infrastructure that we have now. We launch our internships often in the summer. We have a big cohort. So this last summer, we had 10 interns of young adults. And from there, we promote into year-long internships with those who are either staying in town or that we feel have a call to ministry and we want to invite into a deeper role. And so we've had interns anywhere from youth, children's, but also we've extended into evangelism, as well as women's ministry, family ministries, and other opportunities that we've had as well.
That's awesome, man. So good. So much fun with what's happening and different parts, right? Different parts of the country, different ways to do it, different levels of experience. Let's jump in a little bit just to the idea of kind of what have been some of the benefits, right? So you all sit in a unique seat. You all have a broader scope, really, of responsibilities. And so just for you, what have been some of the biggest benefits to doing internships, to having internships or residencies, or whatever they happen to be? And also, what have been the benefits that you've seen for your church or churches that you've served in when you've done this? Let's jump in. We'll start with Tammy.
I think one of the biggest things for us in our culture, we see ourselves at Inspire as a training ground for leaders. And so IA has helped us to create that kind of a culture where we want to bring them in and see how we can help them to grow. And it's given our people an attitude of grace, because, internships, they're not polished, they're not experienced. But when they're at Inspire, our people are used to seeing young students in there who want to learn, who want to be in ministry. And so they show a lot of grace, give them a variety of opportunities. The other thing, as we all know, it's a lot of work to do an internship, but having the extra hands is really nice. You can do some projects and some things that you might not be able to do otherwise, especially for a small staff. So that's been a great thing as well for us.
I think for us at New Beginnings, we've been a part of doing internships for a very long time. And we stepped in with Intern Academy about 4 years ago as a church. And I think the benefit with doing internships is it helps us to look at things a little bit different. It helps me to really look at my ministry and how I can train people. Because when I was back in youth ministry, I was young and didn't know a whole lot and never thought I would have to do a funeral for a 19-year-old student. And so the role that I'm in now and being able to have interns and see how I can help grow them in a lot of different areas besides just traditional youth ministry, but how they can look at the church setting in a different way. And I think for our church, it's just been great to have numerous young people who are there, and the people are excited to help, to see the young leaders. We've had them on stage, and even when they aren't the greatest leading a message or something and they say the wrong thing, our church has a lot of grace and just cares about seeing the young people move into leadership.
Yeah, it's good, Keith. I think one of the pieces for us is that we've seen one, it just internally and energy, like it's energized our staff in big ways whenever we bring in, especially in the summer when people want to check out. It's like it brings so much energy into our staff meetings and everything we're doing that it breathes like this wind of life. And as well as kind of like what Keith was saying, it's challenged us to be really intentional with the development of our ministries and given us vision of who we need to begin to see as our next interns. And so our staff has such much more of a multiplication mindset when we're looking at how are we going to develop leaders from within. I think a lot of times us as churches, we're like, where are the good leaders at? Let's go get them. And as we've been building interns, it's been a great challenge to say, well, we want to raise them up and develop them from within. And whether we're keeping them or we're sending them out, we know that we're equipping the kingdom with these great leaders that we can empower in our church as well as in the churches beyond.
Yeah, that's really good, Jeremy. I think I'm thankful for, our church, just like yours, that is wanting to invest in the next generation, and having interns really showed our church just kind of that we are serious about investing in the next generation. We all have heard the statistics about so many, people walking away from ministry. And so really helping them work out their calling, I think was what is one of the major benefits that we saw this summer, was being able to pour into and to mentor the 3 interns that we have. And so it was great for our church, to see them doing funny videos on social media every week, doing the announcements on video, and being on the stage. Our one intern, Sam, he preached on a Sunday morning. So, I'm thankful for, Josh and his commitment to wanting to raise up this next generation. And so one other intern, she walked in thinking she wanted to do worship, but then she's like, I've had this little inkling about wanting to do family ministry. What would that be like? And so we gave her the experience and the time to be able to explore. She did a survey, and then now we're putting together a faith development resource as a result of that survey. She's put that together, and we're in the final stages of that. So again, just the benefits of having them collaboratively work together, but also on individual projects was just amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Jeremy, just to kind of piggyback on what you were talking about before, and you said it energizes your staff. I think it also energizes our congregation a lot. It's really neat because we introduce our interns early and we talk about them often to the board from stage. We do it really big, and it's cool to see the buzz around the congregation of, hey, we have these interns coming in. How can we come alongside them, love on them? I feel really bad for them sometimes. Like they don't get any alone time because there's a line of people that are like, hey, you come over for dinner, or we're going to take you out to dinner. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. So they really don't get a whole lot of rest and alone time during their internship experience. But it's really cool to see the congregation engage in cool ways from that, or even hosting an intern for the summer, seeing people that are willing to open their home, open their pocketbooks to make sure that they are experiencing things in a really cool way. So that's been really neat to sit back and watch too.
That's awesome, man. If you just heard that part, everybody would do internships, right? That sounds amazing. All the different things and so many good gold nuggets in what you shared. Let's talk about the other side of that coin, right? So, like, what have been some of the more difficult aspects? What are the tougher aspects? What have been some of the challenges, both that maybe you faced in the unique seat that you sit in, but also just maybe your church, what they've gone through as you've gone through the process of developing the next gen. Paula, share with us your thoughts.
Yeah. So, I came in March in my new role, so completely new role. So to then take on 3 interns, starting in May was a little bit of a challenge. Not that I was not totally bought into it, but having the three was a lot. Coordinating their schedules, managing 3 people with very different personalities was, again, we all know that there's introverts and there's extroverts, and all of that, and working together with that. I would say that one of the challenges with coordinating our schedules too was like one of our interns didn't get to go to the retreat, so that kind of put her a little behind the 8 ball in the relational side of things in that regards. But honestly, yeah, I don't feel like we had like a lot of misses necessarily. Just I think from my perspective, it was just more of a challenge with the 2 of us now that are coaches. Austin, it was his first time, and I've been a part of Intern Academy since 2019. And so anyway, again, I'm familiar with the process and everything, but super just thankful, for all that Intern Academy has done to support us.
I feel like there's always a learning curve to internships, especially for our staff. And so I think one of the ways we want to approach is we want to develop leaders and not just grunt workers and just people that we dump tasks on. And so for every time we're bringing a staff member into maybe oversight over an intern, or we're trying to, or put an intern in a department, we're trying to say, hey, this isn't your assistant. This is the leader that you're empowering and developing. And that's always a learning curve because they have so many tasks that they just want to dump and, now I don't have to take care of this. And so keeping our staff accountable to that. I think also one of the pieces is just sustaining the momentum. I think always, especially in the summer, like June is the best. Like it's just like everybody's in and it's just so exciting. Everybody's just like drinking from a fire hose, and our interns are just like, this is the best thing ever. And by the time we get to August, it's like, how do we keep them energized and focused, especially for some of the ones who are going back to college or transitioning and starting to think about school. And so for us, or especially in the year-long internships, just making sure that we have a consistent development plan of keeping them engaged and giving them direction consistently, and not just falling into kind of the comfort of the flow.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier, in a smaller church, you wear a lot of hats and you're always on the go. And I found it difficult when we have an intern that maybe doesn't have the work ethic or isn't a self-starter. Sometimes that can be frustrating. But I think the hardest part maybe for just doing a summer internship is that there's such a time crunch, and trying to build relationships and give them a variety of experiences over just a few short months is really hard. And relationally, that can be difficult even with students in our ministry, because they know an intern's coming in and they're not going to stay. And emotionally, that's difficult when it's time to say goodbye and those interns take off. Thankfully, we have interns who, for the most part, have kept in touch and we're still in relationship. But I think that's a tough piece when you're working with a very short internship time.
Yeah, I would agree with everything that everyone said so far. Jeremy, especially, a sentiment that I certainly feel, and I'm sure most of you share, is that sometimes it feels like we don't have enough time to do the jobs that we're tasked with. And the thought of an intern might be such that you're like, oh man, this is going to be great. I'm going to have so much more free time to do what I need to do. And if you're hearing this and you're thinking an intern sounds great because they're going to take a lot of my, junk work off of my plate, please don't get an intern. You are going to be very disappointed. And most importantly, they're going to be really disappointed in their experience. It does take a ton of work and a lot of extra effort. So don't make that commitment unless you're actually willing to make the investment necessary to make it a good experience for them. Another thing that I think about, and something that I'm starting to discover more and more in my role, is that the stat I heard was less than 2% of the vocationally employed body of Christ works in the field of missions and outreach. So team building and structure, you don't really have a program necessarily that you follow, like maybe a kids program or students program. So it's really hard sometimes to plug people in certain ways, where before you say, hey, this week you're going to do greeting, this week you're going to do check-in, this week you're going to give the message, you're going to do production. So there's some of that you have to get a little bit more creative and unique in how you position and structure their internship and that schedule. And Keith, you may be able to talk more about that in your seat in missions, but I know that was really challenging the first time, trying to get an intern shared with a local nonprofit as well as doing some missional work with me.
Yeah, I understand the trouble that you had. So I'm over all of our interns, and sometimes that kind of gets a little tricky when I'm looking at it from pastoral care and missions, because the day-to-day things are a lot different. Because in pastoral care, a lot of it is as things come. And so trying to do a day-to-day thing, I struggled with it because of being a youth pastor. I would see how I could plug them in, some interns to the youth area. And so it was trying to look at how can I pour into them, not just in the area of missions, but actually in leadership, is what I've seen. I love just spending time with them. But it is a tough thing with trying to get that day-to-day tasks or projects or things to work with them on that I know is different when you have like a specific program like children and youth. And I'd say the other part is having interns, like a couple of people have said, you think, and I've talked to some people at other churches who, oh, I'd just love to have an intern. Cheap, how to get things done. And I think one of the struggles is having multiple interns at one time is really takes a lot of teaching. And it's you have to be very detailed in the teaching sometimes, and it takes a lot of time. And sometimes it's like, how can I get my things done as I'm working with 3 interns? And I sometimes wish they could just go down to another office and hang out so I can get stuff done. But instead, we're wanting to spend time teaching and training them because we only have them for a short time.
Such good stuff there. I'm fascinated. It just got me thinking a little bit about the unique seat that you sit in. Oftentimes, is influenced by so many variables. So in children, youth, lead, if you're in that role, you have one report to you, and they shadow you and do what they do. But the coordinating that takes place of interns in multiple areas, or if you have a shared intern where they're serving in multiple capacities, or your responsibilities oftentimes are multiple. How you lean into that? Just coordinating that is fascinating, very, very interesting, and unique, right? So let's just wrap up with this. If you have some thoughts for somebody who, I don't know, was in your spot, or maybe just isn't a unique pastoral role, right? It's not the traditional lead, youth, worship, children, and they want to invest in the next gen. Just what advice would you have for them? What are some things that you wish someone would have told you, maybe, and what's something that you would help them know to start? What are some things that maybe they should just know in the process along the way? So, just give us your thoughts on that.
I think for me, I would say just do it. It's a great opportunity, not only to build into future leaders, but the connections in Intern Academy with so many other great leaders that you can learn from. And I know when I was starting out in this role and trying to figure out how to build not just summer interns, because we wanted to see how we could go from having a youth leadership class to building some of them up to be high school interns, and then move them into year-long internships. And so just being able to contact some of the coaches that were already doing some of those things, we don't have to reinvent anything because there's so many other people who are doing awesome work, and we can just jump on some of the things that they're doing, but tailor it to where we're at, and know that I don't have to have all the answers up front. It's a learning process. I think we're all saying we're hitting a learning curve in different ways, but it's a great experience because it helps us to grow in our role, but it also will help us to further leadership in the generations to come.
I would say it's important to plan and prepare well for the internship, but also to be flexible. Flexibility, right? Because every internship is different. And even if you've been doing this for 20 years, you don't know what this one's going to look like because people are so unique with their personalities and their abilities and their passions. And I also would say to approach the internship with the question, what can I do for them? Rather than what can they do for me? Several people on this call have talked about the fact that they're not for grunt work. They're not just to get those extra projects done. It's about pouring into them and investing in them. And then finally, I would say when you're looking for interns, I would say talk to people who've already had interns. IA coaches are the best source of maybe your next intern. And I also believe in bringing those within. Be thinking about people in your own congregation who might have a call to ministry, who might maybe 4 or 5 years down the road will be in a position where they would be a great intern fit for you or for another church with other coaches that you know.
That's great. I know that I mentioned earlier that I like to try to tailor the experience to what my intern wants, but I would also say at the same time, put yourself in the intern's shoes and say, hey, listen, if you're 18, 19, 20, 21, whatever, getting into ministry, you've never experienced it before, what is it that you wish someone would have told you? Start thinking of the questions that they're not going to ask you because they have no idea to ask the question. And try to make sure that if you're something where you're saying, you know, I really think that it would be beneficial for you to experience this in this unique seat, make sure that's part of that internship. Try to give them as close and accurate a picture of what everyday life in ministry is. Because I know that for me, I would have loved to have had an internship. I started off as an admin role. That was about as close as I got to an internship. But there's still so many things where I felt like maybe not thrown to the wolves, but you know, you're experiencing things for the first time at a very rapid pace, and it's like drinking out of a fire hose. So as much of that as you can take away from them, or I guess give to them in a managed, less chaotic setting through an internship, I think the better off their whole experience will be. But if you're thinking about it, like he said, just do it. It's definitely worth it. Take time to enjoy it. It's a lot of work, but sit there and enjoy it. You know, make sure that you're praying, meditating over the beauty of the whole situation. There's a young person that is feeling, you know, a nudge from the Holy Spirit being called into ministry, and that's a great thing. So, you know, in the times where it gets frustrating or confusing or even a little scary, just sit back and smile and say, man, this is awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Tom, when you're talking about the curation of the internship for the intern. One of the things that I think I've learned from this unique seat as we're empowering interns is that everybody has different gifts. And a lot of times we look at internships in real specific lanes of kids or youth. And when we start to look at the gifts of the leaders that we're bringing in and that we want to raise up, we want to release them in so many different areas of ministry. And so broadening even our vision of the different impact of ministries that interns could go serve in or even build or lead. There's been times to where I've commissioned interns to build ministries that we've dreamed of building, and that they are the catalysts a lot of times to starting those because they're young and they're ambitious and they aren't afraid to make mistakes. And so broadening our vision. And I think in this unique role too, sometimes I view myself as every intern's bodyguard a little bit, that I can steward them and be a safe place for them to come. I oversee all of our placement for our interns, and so that allows them to have a relationship with me that's outside of their specific ministry assignment, and as well as that, we kind of have 3 goals for our interns. That one, that as they leave their internship, that they would say, I thought I had a relationship with God, and now it's just been exponential growth in my time in the internship, to where I've just encountered him deeply. I've been formed as a person and discipled in a way that I never even thought or knew was possible. And then also that they would discover their identity and calling. And so as we make those our goals and those our vision versus just serving our ministry, I think it just benefits both them, and they can walk away from positive experience as well as us.
So good. Whoa, that is so good. I agree. I think if anybody's considering it, just jump in, start small. I think that's the best thing to do is just to be prayerful about it. I love that, Tom, that you brought that up as far as like who would be good fits. And two, I think what's so good is to be able to give interns opportunities to grow in the things that they're passionate for. And that's what's so unique about interns is that they have the youth and the passion and that they want to make a difference. And we saw that in our interns this summer. And, we talked a lot about not giving them tasks, but just helping them grow in their calling. I had a quote here I wanted to just read real quick. One of our interns, the question was, how will this intern impact you as the way you approach ministry moving forward? And she said, I think it's just a good reminder that you can have fun and it doesn't have to be work, and that your ideas and your voice matters even when you're the youngest in the room. And I think that speaks volumes that, these interns are looking for ways to connect, ways to live out their calling, and just ways to be affirmed in their calling.
Oh man, that is so good. It's true, man. They matter now, right? God has plans for them to use them now. So much good wisdom in this, man. I think that a couple of things that just are running through my head that just kind of kept repeating themselves in our conversation. I think one is the important role to care for them and the role that you play in making sure that they're cared for, because there's different personalities who might be leading them in different departments. You play a really important role in the unique seat. It's a privilege, right, to be able to connect and care for them in that way. And then I think the other thing is connection, right? So you're kind of a bridge sometimes to that other associate, or a bridge to the intern and the role that they're supposed to fulfill in the ministry, or make sure that we're not dropping the baton somewhere when we're training or equipping or coaching or teaching or whatever those pieces are. Just super important role. It took me back to before Intern Academy. I had an intern that we were doing them in student ministry because that was my lane, and they were being done in a different department as well. And the interns had different experiences because we didn't have a you. We didn't have some of you in that seat that could make sure that they were cared for and they were getting a similar experience. I look back on it now, and one of the interns that had the kind of the internship that was more cared for, still in ministry. And one of the interns that was not cared for, not connected, didn't do a good job teaching, training, no longer in ministry. And I don't think that's coincidental, right? Like we're not responsible for the kids' future, but we all do have a responsibility to help them fulfill and pursue what God's called them to do. And they have to make their own path. But the role that you play is really super important. So anybody who's listening to this, if you're in a unique seat, take their advice, start. But I also would say this, these people, they're my friends, and they are kingdom-minded people. And if you have questions, if something resonated with you, or you heard something you want to dig in deeper with, you can reach out to any of these folks, and they would be happy to help you and process with you. I think one of the things that we all agree on is that we're on this journey. It's not something you finish, you figure out, and you just keep doing the same thing. But every intern, as mentions, is different, and developing them and having the best strategies is different in today's day and age. And so working together is just the best way to do it. So thank you all for the time you've carved out to pour in and for being kingdom minded like that. It's been a lot of fun to do, and I can't wait till we get to do it again.